There's actually two questions to that one question that seems very simple, but is the uptrend of Bitcoin's more recent history over, or is the bear market over? Well, today we're going to take a look and define some conditions for both. And welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is February 19th, 2023. And I'm Dr. Crypto Landy. We're going to jump right in and take a look at price action. We can actually see right now we closed yesterday's candle, this being Sunday's candle, just inside of support up here at around that 24 250 to 24 260 area, actually closing at 24 283. Now, in the open of today's candle, this being the Monday candle, you can see that Bitcoin is actually pushing below the first standard deviation Bollinger Band to the downside here. So, what are we looking for here? If Bitcoin's going to break down and this move to the upside is over, then we're probably going to see things, break down towards the 20 simple here on the Bollinger Bands. Definitely closing below $24,000 here is on a daily time frame. That is going to be putting in a high. This high will come on divergence as well. So quite a few drives of divergence here on the daily time frame, and we would be looking for things to start playing out to the bottom side of the current range. Anywhere below the 20 simple, and then the first standard downside deviation of the Bollinger Bands here at around 22 140 150 area, depending on whether or not you're looking at spot price or derivatives charts. In this case, any break below 23 350 or so, which is the wick lows of this higher high structure, then I would be looking for, moves back to that 20 simple, around that 23 100 and below 23 100. To be quite honest, my opinion is that we're going to go swing this low area down here. And that's that low area is about 20,500, 20,800 on a close, depending on which chart, of course, again, you are looking at. In this case, we've got 21 500 to 21,800. My apologies. 21,628 being the closing lows. And then we've got a little bit of a zone here with the wick lows down at 21,366. Quite honestly, if it does fail this top side here, I think it's going to be a pretty quick trip down there. And if we start closing below this low, that would be another structure change. In the grand scheme of things, that would be a structure change on a higher term time frame, which we're going to take a look at right now. But in the daily time frames, we already had this uptrend kind of break down. We had the lower high, a lower low, and now we've got right up to a higher high off of a nice drive of hidden bullish divergence. That drive is obviously played out as we ran right into resistance at the top of the range here, and that is going to be the close open of the range highs, the prior range highs, and the wick high there. So we have swung that wick high, and we have painted a pretty clear swing fail pattern on the daily here so far. And to confirm that swing fail pattern, it's closures below yesterday's candle at that 24 283.87. Any closure below there, this is a swing fail pattern confirmed, and we're not only going to head towards that 23 300. I'll just call this low area, which is 23 350 to 23 500. If that area starts to fall apart, we're headed towards that 23,000 to 23,100 area where the 20 simple is, and we are going to most likely, if it does not bounce there, we're going to see the lows pretty quickly. And in this case, we are seeing BBWP, which is the Bollinger Band volatility metric, or the Bollinger Band width percentile. I am using Caretaker's BBWP right here. It is still upside angled while Bitcoin is in the strong half, in this case the upper half of the Bollinger Bands. And we are still seeing expansion to the upside because, well, the 20 simple has a positive slope and the Bollinger Bands are expanding. So trading above the first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands would keep that metric expanding for a while, as long as we started to crawl back up towards the second standard deviation, which right now is $25,050. So where do things stand on this trend? Well, we're waiting because the Monday session is closed here in the United States for the holidays. Now, Tuesday is going to be the big day. So when the market does open on Tuesday, we will find out what the bigger players of the market desire here in terms of Bitcoin price action. And I would say crypto price action in general. A lot of different coins are hitting their overhead resistance of either the range that they're in, like looking at Bitcoin here. When we zoom out, let's turn off the indicators here for just a moment. When we zoom out, many coins are doing the same thing. They're right around overhead resistance. And in some cases, some coins are coming up to prior lows and finding resistance there. So we're finding resistance at the highs of the range right now. And not to be, unexpected by any chance. So, and in this case, if it does fail here, it's had quite a few chances. I think we've moved lower. And in this case, very clear continuation criteria. Above $25,000 will be above the second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands. And I am talking about a daily close on Bitcoin here. Then I would expect at least another move up to around $26,000, possibly more. And any closure below the first standard deviation here on the daily specifically, I would be looking for a move back to the basis here around 23,000, 23,100. I would be very careful around there. It's probably going to get choppy if it does get there on this particular move. But if we do close below, yesterday's wick low, that's 283. So basically 24,300 in this case, or 24,200 we'll call it. Close anywhere below there, the swing fail and the bearish divergence from the RSI, which is a regular bearish divergence, would begin to be fully in play, with targets back down to this wick low at around that 23,300 area to 23,350. That starts to fall apart. That's where we're basically looking to run the lows pretty quickly. And this, we can get another look at this again, as I think we have a little bit of an update here on the fixed range. I gotta just double check here. I want to grab both ranges here just so we can get a good idea. All right, so the value area high, so 25,000. It's $25,000 even. So that's the value area high here of this range. The point of control is going to be that $22,900 to $23,000. So if that does fail, we're very quickly running to the value area low down here, which is basically dead on the actual opening or the close open in this case from the Friday, Saturday candle of the 10th and 11th, so last week's candles, or the week prior. So in this case, if this area fails, I actually think that we not only head to the $20,000 areas, I think we actually head quite a bit lower down to test around the 18,000 to upper $17,000 area. So this is going to become pretty bearish if Bitcoin fails to push through, and I'm going to show you why as we move into the higher time frames here. But let's get rid of the fixed range here. Let's throw on the Bollinger Bands again, and let's go look at the weekly, because that's really the important thing right now on Bitcoin. The weekly did fail to basically break the range highs here. So this was going to be the condition for continuation. Let's hide this other wick here. Hold on just one moment. We'll turn all that off for a moment, because this was going to be the condition for swinging higher, is getting a weekly close above the close open over here from August. So mid-August close open on the weekly. If we had closed above there on this past weekly candle, which closed at 24,281, which is of course lower than the 24,316 that we have from the actual highs of the range, then technically you're looking for continuation to around the wicks and past them. In this case, we're finding that weekly as pretty strong resistance. Does not mean that it cannot push through in this weekly candle. So we do have to be aware of that. Now, weekly continuation of uptrend here, of expansion in this case, we're looking at any closures above 25,300 is where the second standard deviation is here. Of course, that is above the wick high here at 25,256 and the wick high over here of 25,214. So if we do see dailies above there, we're looking for continuation. If we see a weekly above the second standard deviation, we're again looking for continuation. And that continuation would be up to around the 26.5 to $27,000 initially, and then we come back to it later. As you can see, we could even throw wicks up to that third standard deviation. It's pretty rare, unless we're in a very powerful trending move, which, to be fair, you know, this is coming off a higher low on the weekly. So that is possible. Now, we need to see a weekly close for me to not, you know, I wouldn't say bear market is over by any stretch of the imagination, but for continuation, we need to see a weekly close above $24,316.71 here, according to the Coinbase chart. That's where I'm looking for big bad moves up to around that $28,000 to $30,000. We come back to it from there, because the next area to the upside is about 32.5 to around the lows over here. It's like 31.7, 31.8 area. And then possibly we start looking at the mid-30s after that. But nothing like that is going to happen. And in fact, it becomes very bearish if this does get rejected here, as we would start to see. Well, we can see BBWP is also kind of lurching over here. So BBWP expansion would still be to the upside, because we're in the stronger half of the Bollinger Bands on the weekly here. But if we do see BBWP get under the moving average here, what we'll see is the slowing of that expansion, and we'll start seeing the third, second, and first standard deviations start to all contract into each other while the 20 simple or the basis rises. So that is something to be aware of. But nothing's happening until Bitcoin, you know, breaks out on a weekly at least above 24,316, and more importantly, for continuation, needs to get above that 25,300. That's the only way that I'm looking for further upside here. Until then, you know, I would say that not much is over for the bears, although they are struggling in these areas because they don't have any protection of higher ranges to be shorting from. In this case, you know, the ranges up here at around that 40,000, and then the range around that upper $20,000 to $30,000 area. So that's where you can hold on to shorts for a while, and you're protected from, you know, getting close to stops, or close to, in many cases, for the degen traders, liquidation points. And down here off the lows, all the shorts get taken out of position and now are forced to, you know, trade the range. So at this point, it's really up to bigger players in the market to either sell spot or buy spot to really push the market forward, because derivatives aren't controlling this market in terms of directionality right now. And that's kind of where I stand on that. Shorts are forced to short the range, so they can be taken out very easily. Many longs still have protection from the lows over here, especially swing long positions. They're not paying a ton in funding. And in fact, I've seen some pretty high fees for shorts as of late on some exchanges, although that is starting to normalize. Funding is about neutral now. When looking at the weekly here, we can see that the momentum pivot's coming in at 24. We'll call it 24,420 just to be, we'll call it 24,420. And in that case, we need to see a weekly close above there. That's basically closing above the current range highs as well. That would prevent any cross down of the Stochh here on the weekly. Now, we also did close a 5-day. And the 5-day, you can see here, conditions for continuation, pretty clear. Right around the same area here, 25,643. Now, a breakdown coming at about 22,600, breaking below the first standard deviation to the downside would start to target the median band, which is, happens all in one shot. It's around 19.5 right now, but generally I do think if it's not just elevator down, then it'll probably be more like $20,000. And I do believe that above $20,000 Bitcoin's okay for further upside, but any kind of daily or higher time frames that are closed below $20,000, I think do spell a bit of disaster, and at minimum a retest of these the major low that we just put in. Now the 5-day chart showing 24,180 or so as the momentum pivot here. If things can close above there in the next 5 days, then we would see that momentum shift around. But we'll see what this is like. 5 days is quite a long time in Bitcoin land. When looking at the 3-day, getting very close to price action there, below 23,500 on the 3-day chart, which this is going to be very, very important for today, for today's candle in this case. Below 23,565 is the first standard deviation to the downside. That not only is going to set off all of the conditions if we were to close below there, set off all those conditions that I laid out in the daily for further downside and a run back to the current lows at minimum. And there's possibility, obviously, for more on that. But, we would be confirming a close below the first standard deviation on this 3-day here. So this is going to be an important one. I would say the more you see Bitcoin trading above $24,000, the better chance it has to go run those highs and possibly put some more on that before the Tuesday session. But I don't think much is going to be happening before the Tuesday session. If we do start seeing a breakdown, I would wait until what we see with traditional markets opening. So if you aren't already in a position, in this case, I am on the short side, but I've been very quick to take profits within the range that we're currently trading in. 24,250 is the number to beat to the upside in this next 3-day candle. So again, below $24,000, this starts to look like it's going to go run that 23.5 to 23.3, possibly put in a local high and run the lows. And the 2-day, which did just open, is providing some, this is a fairly weak signal, but it could build upon this. Any closure above $23,000, very, very important area. That is the point of control of the range. So in this case, if it can close above there, we would see pressure back to the upside in the next 2-day candle. But right now, the pressure is on this daily. So closures below that 24,286, 24,300 area is going to start to look like things are going to head down. Again, the any closure below the daily momentum pivot would be a close below this candle here at 24,281, right? Let me just double check. 24,281, 24,287, 85. Okay, so basically it's around the same area, 24,280. Any close below there, I think we're running down to test that momentum pivot from the 2-day at $23,000. And in this case, we can see that very clearly here on our charts, kind of where things stand. So when looking at some of the lower term timeframes like the 12-hour, I believe the 12-hour is Still pointed up, but looking like it could turn down in the next 12-hour candle here, 23,350 or so. We needed to maintain upside momentum. Obviously, this thing just put in a high. We do see that BBWP is in a cool down phase right now after quite a big move back up, excuse me. And we did, we didn't close below the first standard deviation, but we opened below it as the first standard deviation here started to continue to rise because of the aggressive upside move. 24,350 or so would be needed to close above that. That is the resistance line right here for the open and close of the range highs. Let's go ahead and turn on the support and resistance. Now, I do want to point out one last big thing here, and that is that, is this the right one? Yes, this is the one. I don't really need that one. The big thing here that we do have to remember is that we can very clearly see things when looking at just the swings, and that in this case the weekly swings. And we can go ahead and just turn on the path tool here, and we have pretty clear structural change that happened here on Bitcoin, and in order to maintain that, it has to push through. So, we had our downtrend. So we had our high, we had our low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Need to see, a higher high continue to push through. If it puts it in here, it's very close to this current low. And, this swing low at 21,366. Very important. And if you start seeing Bitcoin trade below $23,000, that area becomes the focus. Break below there, it's also on a swing, right? So we have the swing high over here, swing low over here. So lots of support. If that fails, we're probably headed down to the next area where you see the intersection between the swing lows and the swing high. So we've got about 18,000 to 18,500 is what I'll call it, because you do have to kind of dig into those zones to fill out that, to fill the order book, right? We're going to be picking up orders in those areas, so it would probably dig in. And then to the upside, we've got minimal structure here on the weekly, so we've already been trading in and around the wick lows, and it would just be a matter of pushing up to the closes and the opens. In this case, this open and this close open up here at around, guess what, $28,000 to $30,000. In this case, 29 or so. That's gonna pretty much do it for my analysis here on Bitcoin. The big one that I'm going to be watching is this 4-hour chart, as it is painting a little bit of a Mickey D's pattern here, but it's not anything too crazy just yet. If we do start closing the 4-hour below $24,000 here, 23,982 in this case, where the 4-hour chart just wicked into. And if you're not familiar, these are vector candles, just showing the higher volume candles. And in this case, trying to push down below the 20 simple here, any closure below $24,000, I really do think that we're going to run down to test that 23.3 to 23.5 area. So be on the lookout for that. Could be bouncy. Maybe it slices right through. We'll see. You can see that we're just sideways on the Bollinger Bands, and we are starting to turn volatility to the upside on the 4-hour here. Yet to confirm. BBWP needs to get above the moving average. Moving average needs to get a positive slope. That usually occurs when trading below the first standard deviation on a closing basis. And of course, in this case, Stochastic would be pointed down. So that's going to do it for Bitcoin spot price analysis. We can just double check here on CME, the momentum pivot for the weekly here. You can see the closing below 22.5 on the weekly would target down to that 19,500 area, which to be quite honest is a gap fill for CME, and that's an actual gap, unlike the daily gap that I'm going to show you here. That's not really a daily gap. In this case, momentum pivot on CME has updated to 24,291. So currently trading below the weekly momentum pivot. The 5-day is ongoing, so that's going to be closing in 3 days. That's a little bit lower here at 23,000, but you can see how that kind of lines up with the very important areas over there on spot price. Spot starts closing below 23,000. Then, well, we've fallen out of the top side of this range. We're running for the lows, and then that does open up the door for bears to push price down further. That would be a rejection of the weekly breakout, so on and so forth, and also come on and start playing out that bearish divergence on the weekly that you can see right here. We would start to see that play out, honestly, looking at RSI here, looking at 21,380 anyway, so that'd be the first target on a bear div for CME. And we're looking at 21,414 on spot price action at the midline. That is basically right around the area that we'd be looking in. That's the actual range lows. So everything kind of coming into alignment there. Very clear what areas need to hold up and what areas need to break to the upside and the downside in this case. So now the daily, you're going to see, oh, well, there was a gap. There's this gap here that's got to go get filled. And I'm going to tell you that no, not necessarily. Doesn't mean that it won't get filled, but it's about a 1.5% gap up there at around 24,870. But if you go down and you actually look at the 15-minute chart, the gap was actually on this candle here, and the gap was already filled back here on this same candle. So when looking at this here, this is your gap fill right here. It was $30 up from where spot price was trading versus where the CME actually closed on the 15-minute chart. I know that daily chart's really attractive for people, but it can be a little misleading. So I would tell you to jump down and take a look at that 15-minute chart. And yeah, that's going to do it for Bitcoin. It really is going to be an important week, I believe, for Bitcoin. And once traditional markets do open, I will cover a bit on where they open at, what the weeklies are looking like. But we need to get the updated momentum pivots there. And, we can kind of see where they open at, gap up or down based on this here, which I'm still observing. And you can see that we have futures trading. So I want to see if traditional markets gap up or down coming into the Tuesday session. So one more candle to close, and then we'll get a good idea of what the week holds for us. All right, well, that's going to do it for me. You have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.